Some of these students have a hearing loss. Their hearing levels range from mild to profound. What does this mean? There are a number of types of hearing losses which can have different causes. There are also varying degrees of hearing loss. Deafness can occur in the outer ear, the middle ear, the inner ear and the auditory nerve. But how does the ear work? The outer ear picks up sound waves which travel down the ear canal, causing the eardrum to vibrate. The eardrum is a thin piece of skin located between the outer and middle ear. In the middle ear are three small bones, which pick up the vibration from the eardrum and link the vibration to the cochlear in the inner ear. The cochlear is filled with liquid that carries the vibrations to thousands of tiny hair cells. These tiny hair cells detect the vibrations from sound and fire off electrical impulses which travel up the auditory nerve to the brain. There are four main categories of hearing loss. A conductive hearing loss can result from blockage of the canal due to wax or a foreign object, damage or malformation to the ear canal or eardrum, or damage to the middle ear through infection. The small bones in the middle ear can also become glued when too much fluid is retained due to a cold. Grommets are used to remove chronic fluid buildup. A sensory neural hearing loss is damage to the tiny cells within the cochlea. This type of hearing loss can be caused by medical conditions and hereditary factors. A mixed hearing loss refers to problems in the inner ear in combination with problems affecting the outer and or middle ear. Central hearing loss results from damage to the nerve pathways to the brain. How is hearing tested and how are the results recorded? A pure tone hearing test conducted by an audiologist establishes where the sounds at different frequencies are just audible to the person being tested. This is the person's hearing threshold. This is an audiogram. Results from the hearing test are recorded here. Intensity or loudness of sound is measured along the vertical axis in decibels. Normal hearing is recorded at 20 decibels or less. This audiogram shows normal hearing, as well as increasing levels of hearing loss from mild to profound. Conversational speech is around 65 decibels and 120 decibels is very loud, about as loud as a jet engine taking off. Frequency or pitch of sound is measured along the horizontal axis of the graph in hertz, from 125 hertz to 8,000 hertz. The higher the measurement, the higher the pitch of the sound. For example, 250 hertz sounds like middle C on the piano. The high-pitched ringing of a telephone is about 3,000 hertz. Normal, young, healthy human ears can hear frequencies as low as 20 hertz and as high as 20,000 hertz. However, hearing is tested in the range of 250 hertz to 8,000 hertz. The sounds below the hearing threshold line can be heard by the person being tested. Here is a picture audiogram from Australian Hearing. Speech sounds are shown on the audiogram to indicate the loudness of conversational speech. This also shows that vowel sounds can be heard at a greater intensity and lower frequency than consonants. The pictorial graph also shows us what can be heard at the different levels of hearing loss. How does a hearing aid help? It is important to know that a hearing aid does not correct hearing. It does, however, improve the person's ability to hear. A hearing aid will make softer sounds louder. It will also amplify some frequencies more than others. It does not always improve the clarity of sound. A variety of hearing aids and devices are available to suit particular needs. Technology changes frequently. Updates can be obtained from the Australian Hearing website. Cochlear implants. A cochlear implant is an electronic medical device that replaces the function of the damaged inner ear. Unlike hearing aids, which make sounds louder, cochlear implants do the work of damaged parts of the inner ear or cochlea to send sound signals to the brain. FM systems. FM systems are used to transmit sound from one person to another over distance, overcoming the effects of background noise, reverberations and distance. They can be particularly useful in the classroom. An FM system is made up of a microphone and transmitter worn by the speaker and a receiver worn by the student. Dr. Norm Erber has developed the hearing loss simulator. This reproduces sound qualities that the hard of hearing person hears. A simulation of a mild, moderate and severe hearing loss will take place during the reading of this poem. It's a segment of Banjo Patterson's The Man from Snowy River. There was movement at the station, for the word had passed around that the colt from old Regret had got away,
and had joined the wild bush horses. He was worth £1,000, so all the cracks had gathered to the fray. All the tried and noted riders from the station near and far mustered at the homestead overnight. For the bushmen love hard riding, where the wild bush horses are, and the stock horse snuffs the battle.
One of my favourite teachers used to face me and speak clearly, and that used to help me a lot.
My teacher, she helped me a lot when she faced me and when she doesn't move around a lot.
When the teacher faces the whiteboard, I think it's best that the teacher should always face you so that you can lip read their mouths if you didn't understand them or if you didn't quite get what they said. When there's announcements that come over and the classroom's really noisy, it's very difficult for other kids in the classroom or me to hear what is saying. And if I don't hear what they said, then I'll ask the teacher again to explain it to me.
Thank you. All right, stop looking, Lisa, please. Just if the announcement, if there's any hot dog notices or money for the cameo, if they can organise those to go to the office, please.
My teacher, when she turns right away from me, will put it back on me in time for me because I can't lip read, but if I miss a word. When the teacher's facing me, I can lip read her, and it makes it a lot easier for me.
Sometimes I have trouble understanding people with different accents. The FM unit actually does help me a lot. I don't actually know what I'd do without it, because if the teacher was over the other side of the room, like over there, it sounds like she's like right next to me. So it's really helpful like that.
My FM, it feels like the teacher's right behind me, but sometimes it gives me a fright because she's over the other side of the room and it feels like she's right behind me. If the classroom's really noisy, I can use the FM so the teacher's voice can go straight in my ear. We use our FM in assembly. It makes it easier for me and Bailey because it goes straight to our ears. When the announcements come on, it sounds electronic and it helps when the teacher says it again.
When a loudspeaker announcement comes over, I find it very hard to hear because it's kind of an electronic voice and it makes it hard to understand what they're saying.
So did you hear what we're doing for the class party? What you have to bring?
Yep.
What time does it start?
It starts on a Tuesday.
On Thursday?
Yes.
Yep, straight after recess.
When an announcement comes over and I don't hear it, normally the teacher would repeat the announcement and make sure everyone understands what it said.
Outside, when the loudspeaker goes on, it's really even harder to hear than in the classroom. And I just ask a friend what it said. I like it when the teacher has a timetable on the wall so I can know what is happening during the day. The timetable helps me because if I don't hear where we're going, I just look at the timetable. My teacher, before she asks someone to talk, she says their names. Their name makes it easier because then I know who to look at.
With my teacher, what we would do is get them hold the microphone up to their mouth and they'd speak like that. It makes it a lot easier.
It really helps when she passes around the microphone from student to student so you can hear what they have to say.
In the classroom, the teacher should say the person's name before they speak so they know who's talking, and they should ask the student to speak clearly and not very quiet or with their face down or something like that.
When the teacher's doing a test, she'll say Isaac, and I'll know when I have to do the test.
In a whole class lesson, and there's lots of people calling out and acting up, the teacher should always stop everyone from what they're doing and then tell them to stop talking over top of people so then everyone can hear what everyone's saying.
In the classroom, I like it when the people put up their hands up so I know who's talking. At assembly, it's really hard to hear the principal because all the kids are noisy.
The sound field system has a control box with then it has microphones and speakers. Speakers are on all the sides of the rooms, and it has receivers for the speakers too. There's also 2 microphones. There's one for the teacher and one for the children to hold. The sound field system helps me and also everyone else in the grade because it amplifies the teacher's voice.
It's really good to use the sound field because whoever's talking it makes it easier for me to hear. Well, we have a sound field system in our classroom and it's really helpful because when we do circle time and when she talks, well, it helps for me to hear and everyone else.
In the classroom, when the background noise is very high, it's hard to understand the teachers and students talking, and it makes it really hard to learn and hear what they're saying.
I like them to be clear and loud but not shouting.
I can hear the teachers in the classroom if the children's are quiet.
In the classroom, I normally sit in the front row because it's easier to see what they're saying and hear them, and especially with the teacher.
I like to sit at the front because it's a lot better and you can understand the teacher, whereas if you're sitting at the back, people tend to talk more and they don't think that the teacher hears them. So if you're sitting at the front, then you can hear the teacher.
Yes, when people are walking past our room and they're speaking, you can hear the noise, especially when you're in a test and you're trying to concentrate.
Well, sometimes in the playground I have to get my friends to repeat their jokes because I don't hear them, and as well as everyone else.
When I play sport, it can get really tricky if everyone's noisy and there's lots and lots of background noise. It can get really tricky, so if that does happen, then I go and tell the teacher to get everyone quiet, so it helps.
At the canteen, it's just really loud and it's just chaos there because they're all like lining up and they're all talking and it's hard to order because you can't hear what the people are saying.
At the canteen, I find it really tricky if it gets noisy, and if I want to buy food, then I ask someone else or if they can help me, because if I can't hear how much they're saying, then I might not pay the right amount or something like that, and then it all just goes wrong. So I get someone else to help.
If the teachers tell me something really important and should write on the board as well, I really like it.
Well, when I'm watching BTN, it's hard to understand, so the teacher plays it twice. When the teacher plays it a second time, it really helps because it's hard to like write notes and watch it at the same time.
I'm learning to play the piano and I like it because it makes a really nice sound.
When my hearing aid battery goes flat, it does get really annoying. Especially when I'm in a different classroom and it goes flat, I have to go all the way to my classroom and change the battery or do stuff like that to it.
Good morning, everybody. Today we're going to look at descriptive writing in our class.
The coordinators at my school were pretty good. Each year they let everybody know that I had a hearing loss, so all of my teachers actually knew before I came into their classroom. They might not have understood it fully, but they knew about it, so they could be aware of it.
And you will need to bring your novels to class tomorrow. Sorry, that instruction again was that you will need to bring your novels to class tomorrow.
It's very frustrating in a noisy classroom because it's very hard to understand the teacher and also hard to hear the class discussions.
In the classroom, the background noise, such as like people tapping pens on tables while the teacher is talking, it's not only distracting for other students, but it's harder to hear because it's usually a louder sound than the teacher's voice. So yeah, it's quite hard. Teachers usually tell them off, but it's quite hard to hear sometimes.
So Maddie, can you explain for us how you take a fingerprint?
We got our fingers and we...
Sorry, Maddie. Girls down the back, you're making it difficult for everybody to hear what Maddie's saying, so can you just stop speaking, please? Go ahead, Maddie.
We had to put our fingers one by one.
In the classroom, I need to make sure I'm sitting near the middle or towards the front to make sure I can see the teacher's face. Okay. A good teacher was my psychology teacher. She had set date for each learning activity or work that we had to complete, so it was very easy to keep on top of everything.
Yeah, it's when a teacher's teaching in the class, it's really helpful for them to write notes on the board if they haven't got handouts of it or something, like they might be writing an introduction to an essay and you might be copying it down, so it's better than them reading it out and us trying to copy it all down. One teacher I had loved to give out notes and everything about the current topic, so they would print out pages and pages of notes worth on the text we were studying, or just things to do with the subject that we might have been studying, so that we could read through it instead of reading it all out and expecting us to remember it all.
If you don't pick up everything that I'm going to tell you today, don't worry. I am recording what I'm saying to you on Audacity, and I will email that to you later this afternoon.
When the teachers face the whiteboard while they're talking, it's quite difficult to hear anything they actually say because you're speaking to the whiteboard and whiteboards don't reflect sound. It's really hard to hear them, and it's just you let them know that you can't hear them and they turn around again. So
I want you to do this with a partner.
It's really important to see a teacher's face in the classroom because you need to be able to read their lips, and if you can't see their face, it's a bit hard to do. So yeah, it aids in the hearing process.
What makes a teacher easy to understand is being able to see their faces when they talk to the class. One of the things that makes it difficult is braces. It can be hard to lip read. Accents are also hard to understand as well. And when they tend to mumble when they talk to the class.
In the classroom, when teachers stand with like lights behind them or in the shadow, it's really hard to follow them because you can't see their face. So most of the time you just tell them, can you move to the side or something, and most of the time they'll do it without question. They'll realise that you can't actually hear them. When information comes over the loudspeaker at school, I cannot hear it at all. So if people around me have heard it, I'll ask them.
When an announcement is made, the teacher would normally repeat it. If not, I'd normally just get a friend to repeat it for me.
For those that didn't hear that announcement, you've been reminded to bring back your excursion forms tomorrow.
Sometimes in classrooms, teachers come up to you and just ask you if you've understood or not. I think it's probably best to do it when the class is off talking about, or just talking and discussing things, just making sure that they can hear, not just doing it in front of the whole class.
Good day, everybody. So Sam, that homework is due tomorrow's class, okay? See you later.
Watching television can be hard at some times, but it's always helpful to have subtitles. When I watch movies at school, subtitles are really helpful for me and also anyone else that's watching the movie. Yeah, because it helps me understand what's going on and what's being said.
Whenever we watch a DVD in class, the teachers should always put the subtitles on for us, and I think secretly that other people in the class like it too, because then they can hear it and see the subtitles at the same time if they accidentally miss something, and it's quite vital when you're studying a movie for an English text. I think it's just when it's a group discussion, it's just easier when only one person talks at a time, so that we don't have to, because you look at people when they're talking because you need to read their lips. Hands-on demonstrations in classrooms are really good because it shows you exactly what they're doing instead of just trying to explain it. So, I don't know, for example, in a cooking class, you wouldn't just say go and whip the cream, you'd show them how to do it, and that's sometimes more beneficial than explaining it. When I'm with my friends and we're just, talking about everything, when I mishear things, sometimes they don't repeat it, and it kind of makes me feel frustrated because it's not really my fault, I can't hear everything. Well, my friends are pretty good at when they tell jokes, they do actually make sure that I hear the punchline sometimes, but if I don't, they try and explain it. When I might be talking to a teacher or a student or just some friends in the yard, they might say something and I might not hear the whole thing, and I'll ask them to repeat, and they say, oh, don't worry about it, doesn't matter. And I'll just, well, what was the point of talking if it doesn't matter? It really frustrates me because if I don't hear something and it's due to the fact that of my hearing loss, they just don't bother with repeating it, and it just kind of makes me feel left out.
The hardest thing in sport is hearing the whistle to stop the play, and also hearing the calls and everyone else screaming at me for the ball or something.
My advice for teachers would be to be organised, and if you should know what you're teaching by the time you come in, so print off some notes for students relating to the topic of study, and make sure, or if you can't do that, write things on the board so that students can copy it down, and just be overall, not extra loud but clear when you're talking, and make sure that the students can see your face.